The sky that morning didn't feel like spring. It didn't feel like anything, really. Just a dull, weightless gray hung over the cul-de-sac. The kind of sky that forgets to choose a mood. No wind, no warmth. Just stillness. I was on the porch with a chipped mug of coffee, bare feet on the cold wood, sweatshirt sleeves pushed up to my elbows. From a distance, I might have looked like any other single mom in the suburbs trying to enjoy the quiet before the world stretched awake. But I wasn't waiting for peace. Peace is a privilege I forfeited a long time ago. At the end of the driveway, my son crouched low, chalk staining his fingertips blue and yellow. He was 6, wide-eyed, full of questions I didn't always know how to answer. That morning he was drawing a dinosaur, a caped one, apparently. I watched him talk to himself as he sketched the outline. Every few lines, he'd turn and announce what the T-Rex could do. "This one saves people," he said, tapping the cape. "He's strong but kind, like a knight, but with tiny arms." I smiled at that, not because it was funny, but because it was unbroken. There's a difference between quiet and silence. Quiet is a choice. Silence is an aftermath. I know the sound of aftermath. The coffee burned my tongue a little, and I welcomed the sharpness. Across the street, a sprinkler kicked on. Birds chirped like they hadn't read the script. Somewhere down the block, a lawn mower coughed to life. Routine. Harmless. Manufactured harmony. Suburban white noise. Then came the engine. Not loud. Not fast. But wrong. You learn to hear that kind of wrong when you've spent years listening for danger. I hadn't been that person in a long time. The one who scans rooftops and memorizes exit routes before sitting down in a room. But instinct doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask if you're done with the past. It wakes up when it wants. A black SUV rolled around the corner, slow like a predator in shallow water. No plates, tinted windows, tires too clean for a work truck, too deliberate for a casual drive-by. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just placed my mug down and stood, letting the weight of the porch fade under my feet as I stepped off. 3 steps forward. My body shifted, not tense, not relaxed, just precisely between my son and the street. Noah kept drawing. The SUV rolled to a stop in front of our house. No decal, no badge, no local insignia. And then the doors opened. You ever feel time stretch? Not like a movie scene. No slow motion. No violins. Just that microscopic moment where your breath forgets what to do. 2 men stepped out, both in matching navy uniforms, tactical boots, utility belts. One had sunglasses mirrored so hard I could see my reflection. The other wore a smirk that made my skin crawl. Their shirts had one thing stitched on: block letters, cheap thread, HOA enforcement. Not police, not city, just pretend. I didn't speak. The taller one stepped forward, clipboard in hand like it meant something. "Ma'am, this residence is in violation of Section 6B. Unauthorized visual markings on private property." I raised an eyebrow. "There is no Section 6B. He blinked. Flat. "Ma'am, this street doesn't have an active HOA, I said before he could finish. "It was dissolved 2 years ago. You're not real." The short one stepped forward now, flipping through his folder like it held secrets. "Temporary enforcement measures. We're authorized to issue compliance warnings on behalf of the county advisory." That was when Noah looked up. "Mom?" he asked, chalk still in hand. "What's going on?" "Stay right there, baby," I said, eyes never leaving the men. Then louder to them, "That's chalk. It'll wash off with the next rain." The tall one shifted. "Ma'am, we'll need you to step aside. Non-compliance can result in—" "You lay a hand on my son," I said, voice flat, deliberate. "And I promise you, you won't use that hand again." The short one snorted. "You threatening us?" "No," I said, stepping forward. "I'm warning you." That moment, the breath before a break, it came. And it didn't leave quietly. The short one moved first. His hand extended in a swift mechanical arc, the kind of gesture people make when they've done it before too many times to too many unresisting targets. His fingers wrapped around Noah's wrist with the false confidence of someone who thought uniforms granted impunity. He thought wrong. I was already moving, coffee forgotten, body in motion, barefoot on cracked pavement. But I was still too far. 3 steps from my porch. 10 feet of slack air between my son and me. And in those 10 feet, I remembered everything I'd spent the last 7 years trying to forget. The chokeholds, the breech drills, the rehearsed sequences of disabling threats before they speak. And yet I wasn't fast enough. Not this time. Then a voice. Not mine. Not Noah's. Low. Measured. Right behind the hedge line. 1. That was it. 1 word. And then everything broke. The tall one, clipboard still clutched in his hand, snapped backward like a marionette on severed strings. No cry, no warning, just a choked noise and a blur of movement. A hand, gloved, from the bushes. It coiled around his neck, yanked him sideways, and disappeared with him into green. There was no thud, no scream, just rustling, then silence. The clipboard hit the pavement. That was my window. Noah's wrist slackened in the enforcer's hand. His eyes wide, knees bent. Run! I shouted. Noah twisted like I taught him, hard and sudden. His elbow caught the man in the ribs, just enough to shock him. Then he bolted for the porch. My mother, Margaret, was already at the door, phone to her ear, expression calm in a way that made my heart want to crack and bow in gratitude. She pulled Noah inside, slammed the door. I hit the short 1 mid-turn, shoulder to sternum. I heard the breath evacuate his body before I felt it. He went down hard, back first, skull second. No blood, not yet. But the sound was honest, blunt. I was on him in an instant, knee in his back, 1 arm twisted behind him, other hand pressing his face against the warm concrete. Don't move, I said. He whimpered. Behind me, porch boards creaked. My son was crying. He said I was in trouble, Noah sobbed. Because of the T-Rex. No, Margaret whispered, holding him close. You're not in trouble, baby. You're safe now. I didn't look away from the man pinned beneath me. I let the weight of the moment settle. Let him feel it. Let him understand. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, I said, low and flat. He groaned, tried to turn. I leaned harder. Then Caleb stepped out from the hedges. Dark flannel, leather gloves. Calm like always. There was a leaf stuck to his shoulder. He brushed it off like he'd just been pruning roses instead of incapacitating someone in silence. Tall one's out cold, he said. Zip-tied and breathing. Backyard. Thanks, I muttered. He nodded, already pulling on a second pair of gloves from his back pocket. Clinical. Efficient. Neighbors were beginning to peek from their porches. Cell phones raised. Pajamas wrinkled. Curiosity weaponized by suburbia. I heard someone whisper, "Is that Clara Hayes?" Another, "That guy's bleeding." The man under me whimpered again. "We were just doing our job," he croaked. "No," I said. "You were pretending." I stood, not fast, not in anger, just vertical, deliberate, and for the first time in years, steady. He groaned on the ground, fingers twitching near his vest like he could still salvage control. He couldn't. I stood over him, every breath steady now. My hands didn't shake. My body didn't tremble. I was back to baseline, the place you learn to live when chaos used to be your profession. Caleb moved in beside me and crouched, inspecting the man's belt. Something bulky shifted under the fake tactical vest. Without a word, Caleb reached in and pulled it free, a stun baton, cheaply made, mass-produced, the kind of tool someone buys online in bulk. He held it up to the light, eyes flat. He tried to use it? Didn't get the chance, I replied. Caleb nodded once, pulled a plastic evidence bag from his back pocket, the kind with a zip seal and printed chain of custody label. He slid the baton inside without touching its grip. "Prince," he said. "Let's keep it clean." Behind us, the porch door cracked open. Margaret's voice cut through the static of the moment, clear and surgical. "They're 2 blocks out. 90 seconds. Copy," Caleb said. He didn't look up. I crouched again, grabbed the man by his collar, and forced his head up to meet my eyes. He wouldn't look at me, eyes skittering, avoiding, calculating. I hated that kind of stare, the kind that still believed it had options. "Who sent you?" I asked. He said nothing. Name. Still nothing. Caleb stood, voice even. "You're not new at this," he said to the man. "Your buddy's zip-tied next door. You're running a script. Just bad at it." Finally, the man spoke. "We're with the HOA enforcement team. This is all a misunderstanding." I blinked once, slowly. No badges. No IDs. No legal authority. "You think I don't know the difference between code enforcement and glorified kidnapping?" Caleb snorted. "They even faked the section numbers. 6B doesn't exist." The man's jaw clenched. Sweat beaded at his temple. I exhaled, scanning the street. More neighbors now, half pretending to water plants, half filming. Then the man moved. A flicker of motion, a reach for his vest. He didn't even make it halfway. Caleb caught his wrist in midair, twisted hard. A second baton clattered to the pavement, identical to the first. "Strike two." "Stay down," Caleb said, and pressed his boot against the man's shoulder. He whimpered again. Less pride now. More panic. From the sidewalk, Margaret appeared, still on the porch, but this time with the door wide open. "Noah's watching cartoons," she said. "He's okay." I nodded. "Thanks." He asked if the bad guys were going to jail. I paused. Didn't answer. Because I didn't know. Not yet. Caleb walked toward the SUV, careful not to touch the handle, and circled the back. He squinted at the windows. "Too dark," he called. "Can't see the rear compartment." "When they get here," I said, "let them open it." And just like that, red and blue strobes turned the sky into a stuttering kaleidoscope. The first cruiser rolled in fast, siren off, lights flashing. The lead officer stepped out before the wheels stopped. Late 30s, clean-shaved, eyes like he'd been up since 4 a.m. He took one look. Man on the pavement, one zip-tied in the backyard, and me standing like I'd never left the battlefield, and slowed. "What the hell's going on?" he asked. I raised my hands. Not in surrender, just transparency. "I'm the homeowner. These men tried to abduct my son under the pretense of HOA enforcement." The officer's partner, shorter, sharper, joined him. "They armed?" he asked. "Not with guns. Just toys. Stun batons, fake citations. Tactical cosplay." He moved toward the SUV, nodded to Caleb. "You mind?" Caleb gestured. "Be my guest." The officer opened the trunk. What was inside froze the whole street. Zip ties, pre-cut rope, a folder labeled Enforcement OPS, filled with addresses. Photos, not just of my house, other homes, driveways, children, names, playsets. One shot of a swing set 3 blocks over. "That's the Reynolds girl," Caleb muttered. "I mow her granddad's lawn when he travels." The female officer's jaw tightened. "This isn't local," she said. The male cop backed away from the SUV, eyes gone cold. "This is organized." Margaret stepped forward. "They weren't improvising," she said. "This was planned." She was right. Too smooth, too quiet, too practiced. They weren't here for a violation. They were here for a target. The silence that followed was surgical, sharp enough to cut through the weight of what we'd just seen. A plastic folder, a burner phone, and photos of children from 5 different properties, all cataloged like targets on a hit list. No one spoke at first. Not the officers. Not the neighbors. Not even Caleb. Then, finally, the lead officer turned. "We'll need statements," he said. "You'll get them," Caleb replied. "But first, run those photos. Fast." His tone wasn't a suggestion. The second officer, dark hair, steady hands, nodded and keyed into the radio clipped to her vest. She gave the trunk contents in a calm, clipped voice. The dispatcher didn't answer right away. That pause said everything. Meanwhile, more units were arriving. Plain clothes, unmarked vehicles, radios buzzing like insects. One of the officers carefully removed the burner phone from the SUV and bagged it. The woman officer lifted the folder again and frowned. Fake IDs, she muttered. Inspector tags. Water, zoning, animal control. They were expanding, Caleb said. They were escalating, I corrected. That's when I saw it, the last photo in the pile. It wasn't of my house, or even one on our street. It was taken from a higher angle, maybe a second-floor window. A girl, no more than 5, swinging in her backyard, curls bouncing, eyes closed. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The look on the officer's face told me she'd seen enough. You're sure these aren't local? She asked. No, I said. I know they're not. Behind me, a voice broke the stillness. Ted, from across the street. Flannel robe, holding a half-drunk mug of coffee. I've got footage from my ring cam, he said. Shows the SUV circling. They looped the block 10 minutes before stopping here. Another neighbor stepped forward, phone in hand. I filmed when he grabbed the kid. You can hear him say the code violation, clear audio. A third. They came by last week. Didn't knock. Walked right past my place. Avoided my cameras. It was like the neighborhood had woken up, like a circuit completed, everyone finally connecting the dots. The lead officer turned to me. You did all this? I didn't answer. Caleb did. She trained half the people you probably served with, he said. The officer paused, jaw tight, gave a small nod of respect. Detective Harris arrived 20 minutes later in an unmarked car. Plain shirt, blazer, badge flashed low and quick. He stepped out, mid-50s, soft eyes like someone who used to believe in happy endings. He didn't speak at first, just looked. 2 suspects down. An SUV packed with evidence. Half a cul-de-sac filming on their phones. He walked straight up to me. Ms. Hayes? He asked. I nodded. I'll keep this simple, he said. You're not the first call we've had this week. The chill crawled up my spine like a second skin. For neighborhoods. Same setup. SUV. Uniforms. Fake citations. Always vague violations. Always involving kids. And, I asked, in one case they actually drove a child around the block. Returned him when the parents paid cash to settle the infraction. I didn't speak. Not yet. This, he said, pointing toward the open SUV, is the first time we've had hard evidence. Photos, gear, a structure. Why weren't we warned? HOA complaints don't escalate fast, Harris said. Most get dismissed as neighbor drama. Until now, no one fought back. No one knew how, I said. But you did. I didn't reply. He turned to a uniformed officer. Pull everything from the SUV. GPS, dash cam if it has one. Cross-reference those addresses with any police reports or HOA complaints. Yes, sir. Another officer appeared at Harris's side. Detective burner phone's clean. No fingerprints yet. But there's a SIM. Trace it, he said. Now. Then he turned to me again. Whatever you did to stop this, it worked. You shattered their pattern. I shook my head. No, I said. I didn't shatter it. I answered it. He stared at me a moment, then nodded slowly. You could feel it, even in the silence. The storm wasn't over. But something had broken. A thread in the wrong hands now yanked tight. And it was unraveling fast. By nightfall, the cruisers were gone. So were the uniforms, the tape, the flash of lights against vinyl siding. All that remained was the echo, the kind that settles in your bones, not your ears. The SUV had been towed, the evidence logged. The fake officers cuffed and silent, taken away in separate vehicles. But the street hadn't gone back to normal. Not exactly. In the quiet, people started walking differently. Not with fear. Not with the careful politeness suburbia demands. They nodded at me, silent, deliberate nods. Respect shaped like restraint. And for the first time since I moved here, I didn't feel watched. I felt witnessed. Inside, Noah slept on the couch, curled around his stuffed dinosaur. His face was relaxed again, untroubled. Margaret watched over him like a sentry in slippers. Cocoa on the coffee table, the remote muted beside her. Downstairs, Caleb finished uploading the footage from the porch camera. Everything from the SUV's slow arrival to the final takedown. The audio was clean, unmistakable. "You gonna post it?" he asked me, eyes never leaving the screen. "No," I said, "but someone will." And they did. By sunrise, it had already spread, first on local pages, then Reddit, then viral. The headline was simple: Texas mom dismantles fake HOA agents attempting child abduction. Clips flooded TikTok. Action music overlays. Threads dissecting my stance, my tone, the move I used to take the man down. People called it Krav Maga. Others said jiu-jitsu. It didn't matter. They missed the point. The world wanted heroes and hashtags. I just wanted Noah safe. News vans came next. Then interview requests. Networks. Podcasts. Advocacy groups. I ignored most. But Caleb said something that stuck. "If you don't tell it, someone else will, and they'll get it wrong." So I agreed. One interview. No makeup team. No edits. Just truth. The anchor leaned forward. Voice soft. Rehearsed. "How did it feel?" she asked. "Watching someone reach for your child." I stared into the lens for a beat too long. Then, like my bones remembered something my mind tried to forget, she blinked. "So, your training kicked in?" "No," I said. "Instinct did. Training's for control. Instinct is for survival." That line ended up in the trailer. But I didn't mind, because after that, the letters started. Hundreds. Some were from other parents. Others from veterans. From women who'd survived things they never told anyone about. A retired judge in Oregon sent a note typed on real parchment paper. "You reminded us that justice doesn't always live in a courtroom. Sometimes it starts on a driveway." I folded that letter and tucked it into the drawer next to Noah's kindergarten photo and the spare house key. Not because I needed to remember that day, but because I needed to remember what came after. Noah had nightmares for 2 nights. He never cried for long, never screamed, just woke up whispering, "Is the bad guy still out there?" "No," I told him. "Not anymore." He believed me, because I said it like I meant it. By the 3rd morning, he was back on the driveway with his chalk. He didn't draw a smiling dinosaur this time. No cape. No bright blue. He drew a T-Rex, massive, standing tall. Behind it, a stick-figure woman with crossed arms, eyes sharp. And at her feet, 2 smaller figures lying down, excess for eyes. Above it all, in blocky 6-year-old handwriting, "My mom said don't mess with her kid." I tried not to let him see what that did to me. "You like it?" he asked, beaming. "I love it," I said. Later that afternoon, someone laminated a photo of the drawing and taped it to the neighborhood bulletin board. Underneath, in thick black Sharpie, "This is who we are now." I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. The story traveled on its own. The Veteran Alliance offered me a medal. A safety summit asked me to speak. I declined most invitations, not out of pride. Out of principle. What I did wasn't about spotlight. It was about survival. About Noah. About making sure he never again had to wonder if someone would protect him. Caleb stayed another week. Checked locks. Upgraded the cameras. Trimmed the hedges like the ghosts of that day still hid in the leaves. Before he left, we stood by the fence and he asked, "Think they'll come back?" "No," I said. "They weren't built for resistance. Just intimidation." He smiled once, brief, then got in his truck and drove off. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, watching the last light slide across the floor. The chalk drawing was still on the driveway, half faded from wind and boots. But it hadn't disappeared, because that message, it had already gone further than our street. And maybe that's all safety really is. Not a wall, not a weapon. Just a quiet promise made loud enough to echo through the places where fear used to live. And sometimes, justice doesn't knock. It answers.